Hey, awesomes! How are we doing today? Thought I would, as promised, I had said that that the video I posted yesterday would be the first of several this week, and so, and I had mentioned that a couple of the comments I was making on Project 3C had to do with APA references, especially more specifically the references page. So, thought we'd go over, have a quick little refresher, kind of give you an idea of some of the terminologies and things like that we're using. Perhaps when I provided feedback to you, one of those is the hanging indent. What does that mean? What does that look like? What's the spacing look like? And then, of course, then they're supposed to be alphabetical. So I thought, take a look at one of mine, and we'll go from there. So, all right. So here is a references page from my prospectus. And so you can see I've got references here in bold, centered in Helvetica. And then I start, there's a double space line here. All right, so 1, 2. And now we're on my very first one. Obviously, I also happen to have one that starts with A. So here's St. Augustine or Augustine, depending on where you're from. Year. I have the title of his work. This particular one is a translation, Indianapolis, Indiana. So I've got the city, state. I have the colon, where it came from, and this particular one it's a little odd because it was originally published in 426, books 397 for books 1 through 3, and 426 book 4. So the hanging indent, really what I kind of want to demonstrate and show here is that in this space here, where you end on the very first line, comes down, and then all subsequent lines, whether there be 2 lines or 3 lines, right, following, I don't know if I have any more. Here's one that has, again, 2 lines, but notice the hanging indent. All right, so the hanging indent is the first line, so the person's last name or whatever, excuse me, is key. In my particular case, I think every single one of mine have an author, so I don't have any that don't have an author, where it's just a where I would put the citation as listed by the title. I think for the most part, almost every single one of mine, yeah. And then here's one here that has more than 3 lines, like 4 lines, and then I have the retrieve from, because it is it's an online from acculturation. And so this one here has obviously more lines, but the thing to note here is that every single one of those lines is tabbed 1/2 inch, right, in all subsequent lines from the first line of the entry. So, so we have Powell, comma, and this one here had several, right, authors. Notice that the and is the ampersand sign, not the actual and sign, not the actual word and, A-N-D. All right, and so this whole thing right here creates what's called the hanging indent, and that is that all the last names, right, all the authors in alphabetical order are hanging off to the side, right? This is still a left justified situation. It's just that once you hit the second line, so here you have Faith Communities, so if I take it off of there, right, so if I was typing along Faith Communities, it's going to take me down to the next line, right after that. So I hit the enter key and then tab, right, and it tabs it in, and thus I have just created the hanging indent. Okay, so that gives you a good idea. Again, the references, right, is centered, bold, Helvetica, and then I start my entries right there. All right, so I also want to talk to you, I mentioned also about research, and I mentioned a lot of times in the research where we have, so I'm going to scroll up here to where my introduction. So this is where in this particular portion I'm introducing my particular problem in this particular genre. This is the genre of the dissertation prospectus. So, but the thing I want to point out here is this. So it has been written that church growth cannot be ignored. Then I have this is the in-text citation right here, okay? Macintosh, 2004. Notice that there is no period after the quote. The ending punctuation goes after the in-text citation, right? Then I have another sentence here. I say what is interesting about church growth is that most surveys and studies indicate that American Protestant church attendance is declining. Now, when you make a statement like that, and I know I pointed out to several of you, and I might highlight a sentence, and I say, this sentence screams for a citation, right? So perhaps you may have said something along these lines, right? What is interesting about church growth is that most surveys and studies, right? So I'm referencing and I'm saying, hey, studies and surveys are showing this one thing. I'm making this claim, right? So that's fine to say, but then I need to say, okay, to whom I'm referring are the surveys and the studies of Chavez 2006 and Thuma and Bird 2015. All right. Then I say, however, attendance at America's largest Protestant churches or mega churches, church weekly attendance 2,000 more, is rising. So I'm making a claim that this thing is happening, right? So I put a citation. I got this from Thuma and Bird. Also, I am going to show that there are 4 studies, right, to demonstrate that I have seen. So someone reading this is going to say, okay, so he's read Thuma and Bird, and then they've got these 4 studies, right, subsequently that are showing, that are backing up this claim, okay? And then I've also got Ellingson, and I've also got Chavez 2016 and 2013. So then someone can scroll down to my references page and see exactly the titles of those and realize that those are those are particular studies that are talking about the thing that I have just quote-unquote claimed, right? All right, so then let's move down here, right here. Within the scholarship, primary aims and goals have been to explain its historical monumental growth and its ability to sustain it, right? There's one of those sentences. I'm making a claim that this is this thing that's happening, right? Within the scholarship, this has been the primary goal, it's been the primary aim. Well, it's okay to say that. It's nothing then to say, okay, here are all the authors, all right, from which I'm getting that information. So I'm saying, not only here's all the scholarship that I'm talking about that have said that they are their primary aims and goals, historical monument growth is the ability to sustain it. So these particular, references, in-text citations, right? Again, notice there's no period after the word "it," even though it's not a quote, right? I'm paraphrasing here, right? And here's all the authors, and then at the end here comes my ending punctuation. The period is right there. So I'm saying that here are all the authors to which I'm referring that are talking about this growth and more particularly to sustain it. Maybe not every single thing that I've read, but here's the list of authors that I'm talking about, right, that I'm referring to. So now I'm increasing my ethos a lot. I'm not making claims that sound like opinion, right? I'm backing up, I'm supporting what I'm saying with solid research, good sources, credible sources, and at the same time building my own ethos, right? And I'm thinking about my audience. The audience is going to read this and they'll say, okay, well, is he just picking something out of the blue and say, hey, church attendance at America's biggest churches or largest churches in the United States, Protestant ones specifically, is rising? Well, how does he know that? Well, I've got 3 or 4 studies up here, right? And then down here, I'm going to say that they're all talking about what I'm talking about, grounding my research in is this ability to sustain it, this monumental and historical growth. And here's all the people that are supporting that. All right? And that's the kind of things when I made those comments to, perhaps I said, hey, you know, this particular sentence needs support. How do you know this? Where is your support, right? Where are your references? Where's your in-text citations? Make sure your references page are in APA. So that's a good example of APA formatting. How to do that. The references page, create the hanging indent, and then how to look at your sentences and realize those sentences that really need those in-text citations, right? Author last name, comma, the year. If you have more than one, then you would use let's look at that real quick. Then you would use the, as you notice here, a semicolon, right? And then I've got the next one, comma, 2015. If I have more than 2, Thuma and Bird, comma, here's all theirs, right? The years. Then I have semicolon, here's another one, that's just one, semicolon, and then Chavez and both of his. Okay? All right, hope that's been helpful. A little APA review, research review kind of update. If you have any questions about that, please do let me know. But the hanging indent, you got to get that hanging indent, get those in-text citations into your Project 3Cs. All right, guys, have a great week. Talk to you again soon. Bye.